Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Bavarian Guys, a German automobile podcast where I'll be mostly centering around BMWs. My name is Luke. This is the first ever podcast. So if you are new to the channel, which I'm sure most of you are, please go down and click that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. Please like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into this. So in my first ever video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite BMW chassis of all time, my favorite M car of all time, which is going to be the BMW E9X M3. This is just such a special car, and today I'm going to explain why. So the E9X M3 ran from 2008 to 2013. And what really makes this car so special is the engine, right? It received a V8, the S65 V8. It's the only M3 to ever get a V8. And let's face it, this will never ever happen again. Of course, the successors of this generation, which were the F8X M3 and 4, received a twin-turbo 6-cylinder S55, and the current G8X M3 and 4 did receive the S58, also twin turbo 6-cylinder. And although these engines are, they provide more torque and they're definitely faster, I just feel like the novelty of a V8 and having to rev it out to 8,300 RPM and just the sound alone is something that's really just unparalleled. It is really just something that's unparalleled. Of course, also during this same era when the E9X M3 was in production, the BMW also put a V10 in the E60 M5. So the S85 V10 was put in the E60 M5 along with the E63, E64 M6. So this was just such a wonderful time to be a BMW enthusiast. It was just really something special, and I still believe the BMW is still a very special car even in today's world. But I feel like this was just really the peak right here. I mean, this was just really the peak. So going back to the S65, yes, I understand this engine certainly had some issues, right? I mean, this is a high performance engine, higher displacement, along with S85 V10 did have its normal maintenance checks, right? Some of these engines, if neglected, if you didn't do your regular oil changes, of course, some of them were prone to rod bearing failure if you neglected these engines and really didn't take care of them. But, the sound that came from this S65 V8 is probably the best sounding BMW of all time. And of course, some people do believe it's the S85 V10. That sounds wonderful too, but I feel like the S65 just sounds a little bit better. It has just such a wonderful sound, and that's what really makes this car just so special. It just does. It's an absolutely incredible car all the way around. And not to mention, I love the fact that there was a sedan M3 in this generation. Of course, in the E46, there was not. And that is why they had a ZHP, which came out in 2003, because everybody was so outraged and didn't make an E46 M3 sedan that BMW said, okay, we're going to come out with a ZHP that was kind of bridged the gap between the 330 and the M3. Of course, it was sedan only the first year, and then they came out with the coupe in convertible in 04. And of course, the first year was only available in the manual transmission, but in the E36 M3, you could get a sedan M3. So they went from having a sedan M3 and E36 and going to the E46, not offering it. Everybody was just so bummed about it. And then in 2008, they had the E90 M3 sedan, so they brought it back, and that was just truly incredible. And unfortunately, that only ran until 2011, while the E92 coupe and E93 convertible ran up until 2013, so just a little bit longer. But I mean, really, just one of the biggest things I love about the E90 and E92 is that they look different. You know what I mean? If you go and take a look at one, the taillights, there's a big difference with these taillights. I personally like the look of the E90 a little bit more. I know I dislike the look of the E92, but I just think a four-door, high-performance sedan is just so good looking. I just love the look of it. I think it looks fantastic. Again, this is in no way a knock to the E92 chassis, but I love the fact that this M3 generation has a four-door M3. Not to mention, this is the last M3 to get hydraulic steering. And many people believe that the E46 M3 with that chassis, with the S54 engine, and it being a little bit more of a bare bones M3, they believe that is the last true M3 to really have that raw driving experience. And I disagree. I think this is the last M3 to really get that raw driving experience. I mean, the fact that, again, you have to rev this thing out to, around 8,400 RPM to really get that true power, from that S65, and the tight steering, it still drives just so raw and just so well. I love the way this car drives, and everybody wants to criticize the S65 for having a lack of torque, and it certainly has a lack of torque. You could feel it, but I think it's very fun to have to rev a car out to really get the power out of it. I think that's really fun, and that's something that you don't have to do with the S55 and the F8X M3 and 4. That's something you don't have to do in the S58 and the G8X M3 and 4. That's something you don't have to do in the F90 M5, the F91, F92, F93 M8. I really love having to just rev a car to really get its true power out of it, and that's just fun. I find that to be really fun, and that's one thing I love about this car. Also, this is the last M3 you can get without navigation. A lot of people do not like, including myself. I mean, I'm not going to be, if I found a double hump, E9X M3, I mean, that was the perfect spec and everything, I would certainly not be hesitant to buy it. But of course, the single hump is certainly the way to go. It looks better in my opinion. You don't have that that big screen there, up above the climate control. That's not there. I just think it looks a lot better. And this is the last M3 that you can get where you don't have to get a navigation system, where you don't have to get iDrive. So that is called single hump, right? So it doesn't include the navigation screen. So in my opinion, that's just really the way to go. I mean, the car is just going to age better because the CI/CI drive, I mean, of course, that was for the majority of the time the E9X M3 ran from around 2009 to 2013. It did receive the CI/CI drive, which is a great iDrive. I think it's aged super well. Of course, in 2011 and a half, you were able to get wireless Bluetooth where you could stream your music. But I just feel like it's starting to show its age, rightfully so, but I feel like it's still aging much better than the CCC iDrive that was in the '08 models. Those were absolutely just disastrous. You could still use them today, but I just feel like that technology has just aged so poorly. There's a major difference between the CCC iDrive and the CIC iDrive. The CIC, much more usable, much more user-friendly in my opinion. So another thing with this car, I mean, I absolutely am a big manual fan, and I previously owned a 2004 BMW E46 ZHP sedan, which I absolutely loved. But the DCT or the manual transmission, they are just both so fun in so many different ways. It comes to a practicality standpoint. If you were to drive this car every day, you probably would want the DCT, just simply because, again, it's just a more practical, transmission to deal with on a daily basis. But the manual is so fun in this car. I mean, of course, it's a V8 with a manual, and of course, that's certainly going to be fun, especially when we talk about the lack of torque and when you have to kind of really redline this car to get its full, horsepower, which I absolutely love. Of course, that 414 horsepower that this car has coming from, stock. But being able to rail out your own in a V8 is certainly something that's, just unparalleled in many ways. A lot of people do believe, though, that this engine is better equipped with the DCT. And I could see their point with that. I could definitely see their point with that. Of course, I still prefer the manual. I still heavily prefer the manual. But the DCT is a fantastic transmission. It's super quick. It's super snappy. It's very responsive. It is extremely responsive. It doesn't feel clunky like the SMG2 that was in the E46 M3, like the SMG3 that was in the E60 M5. It does not feel clunky, to say the least, man. I mean, it really feels very responsive, very quick. And I think my favorite thing about the DCT is the downshifts. The downshifts in this car are absolutely insane. And I just feel like the DCT and the F8X M3 and 4 just really didn't feel like that great. I feel like it was much better equipped with the S65 than it was the S55. I feel like it was a better equipped transmission for the S65, and just in so many ways. It did feel a little bit more clunky with the S55. That's just my opinion. It felt a little bit more clunky with the S55. And I could say hands down, if you were to get an E46 M3, you have to get a manual simply because of how bad the SMG2 is. But I don't say that about the E9X M3. I mean, the E9X M3 is such a fun car in the DCT transmission. It's super fun, super responsive. And I think you'd be happy with either one. I'd be a little bit more happy with the manual transmission just simply because I'm such a big manual fan. But, either or. either or. I mean, I think they're both fun for many different reasons. If you're looking for more speed, torque, hey, I'm gonna do a stage 1 or stage 2 tune on this. I'm gonna supercharge this engine. You probably are most likely better off getting a DCT, just simply because it's gonna be a little bit faster. But if you're more the old school enthusiast and you really enjoy the driving experience, I certainly would say that the manual is certainly the way to go with this car. Love the ZCP competition package, right? It's a fantastic look. It gives you bigger wheels, some slightly lower suspension. It's an absolutely gorgeous package that, of course, debuted on the E96 M3. And then everybody loved it, so they brought it back for the E9X chassis. And of course, that was for 2011 through 2013 for the E92. The E93 did not get a ZCP competition package, but the E90 M3 only ran from 08 to 2011, so the E90 M3 only got in one model year, unfortunately. So currently, as many people are aware, the automobile industry is heading towards more electric-powered cars, lower displacement engines with tunes and turbos and things like that. So I think it's fair to say that we will never see this again, right? I mean, a V8 in an M3, that's probably never going to happen again. This car is the last of its kind. It is the last of its kind. I mean, the sound, everything. It's just a fantastic sound, and it's one of those cars. Even if you were to get a F8X M3 and 4 from the factory, right, and you never did a mod or muffler delete or a straight pipe or catalyst or anything like that, it sounds absolutely horrible. I mean, the F8X, the S55 exhaust sounds terrible, absolutely terrible. Now, if you were to even get an S65 from the factory and didn't even touch it, of course, I would wish it would be a little bit louder, but it still sounds fantastic. It still sounds so good from the factory. I never heard one that I'm like, oh, I don't really think that sounds good. I mean, this engine is the best sounding motor ever. I absolutely love it. It just sounds so good. It just sings. It's just a fantastic car. It's great to drive. It feels super tight in the cabin. It's a really small car. I mean, it really is. I mean, they had a big jump. The F80s are definitely bigger than the E9Xs. I mean, there's no question about that. It feels much more tight and nimble in the E9X when you drive one. I think it looks better. I think it's more non-discreet. I mean, the G80, the G80, G82, G83, I just feel like they're so obnoxious with the bigger grills, and yes, they're very capable and high performance cars, but I just feel like BMW, this is when they had soul, right? This is when they had more soul. And they weren't so focused on the horsepower and, the speed and the torque. They were more focused on the driving experience. And I kind of feel like they veered away from that. And this car is a perfect example of that. So hope you all enjoyed this first podcast. If you did, please be sure to go down and click that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Check out my Instagram at Pervarian_guys_. I'd really appreciate if you guys would go and check that out. This is the first of many. Please leave your comments below suggesting what video I should do next. I plan on doing some ranking videos, like 5 series ranking videos and 5 ranking videos. A lot of content coming on this channel. So I appreciate you guys clicking on this video and checking me out. I'm Luke, and I'll talk to you later. I'll see you guys.